माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा गौरनिताई जय गौरनिताई जय गौरनिताई जय गौरनिताई प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव। जब श्रीपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामचारी श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय। Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maiya ki jai. Sri Sri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Namo. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody to a nice cold morning today. Apparently temperatures are hovering around 5 degrees right now. So we'll read from Prabhupada Lilamrita. Prabhupada ki jai. Share my screen. So this is a conversation between Prabhupada and a boy who had just come to his program. The boy says, I don't see why, Prabhupada. If you don't want to become an old man, you will be forced to become an old man. Boy, it's one of the conditions of Prabhupada. Yes, that condition is miserable. Boy, I find it not miserable, Prabhupada, because you are a young man. But ask any old man how he is suffering. You see, a diseased man, do you want to be diseased? Boy, I wouldn't search it out. Prabhupada, boy, I wouldn't search it out. Prabhupada, no, just answer me. Do you like to be diseased? Boy, what is disease? Prabhupada, just answer. Boy, what is disease? Prabhupada, oh, you have never suffered from disease. You have never suffered from disease. Prabhupada looks dramatically incredulous. Boy, I have had the mumps and the measles and whooping cough, which is what everyone has, and you get over it. Some people in the audience laugh. Prabhupada, everyone may be suffering, but that does not mean that it is not suffering. We have to admit that we are always in suffering. Boy, if I have never known happiness, I feel sure I have never known suffering either. Prabhupada, that is due to your ignorance. We are in suffering. We don't want to die, but death is there. We don't want to be diseased, but disease is there. We don't want to become old. Old age is there. We don't want so many things, but they are forced upon us. And any sane man will admit that these are sufferings. But if you are accustomed to take these sufferings, then you say it is all right. But any sane man won't like to be diseased. He won't like to be old, and he won't like to die. Why do you have this peace movement? Because if there is war, there will be death. So people are afraid. They are making agitation. There should be no war. Do you think that death is a very pleasurable thing? Boy, I have never experienced. Prabhupada, you have experienced and forgotten. Many times you have died, you have experienced, but you have forgotten. Forgetfulness is no excuse. Suppose a child forgot some suffering, that does not mean he did not suffer. Boy, no, I agree. I'll just finish this part. Prabhupada, yes, suffering is there. You have to take direction from realized souls, from authorities. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Dukhalayam ashashvatam. This world is full of miseries. So one has to realize it. Unless we understand that this place is miserable, there is no question of how to get out of it. A person who doesn't develop this understanding is not fully developed. Just like animals, they do not understand what misery is. They are satisfied. It was late when he finally returned to his apartment. One of the boys brought him a cup of hot milk, and someone remarked they should do the chanting in the park every week. Every day, he replied. Even while half a dozen people were present, he lay down on his thin mat. He continued to speak for some minutes, and then his voice trailed off, preaching in fragmented words. He appeared to doze. It was 10 o'clock. They tiptoed out, softly shutting the door. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamavishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Screen again. So we are continuing to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, Text 30, which is the last verse of this chapter. Prajvaro ayam maya bhrata. Prajvaro ayam mama bhrata. Tvam cha me bhagini bhava. Charamyobha bhayam lokesmin. Avyakto bhima sainikaha. Prajvaro ayam mama bhrata. Tvam cha me bhagini bhava. Charamyubhabhyam loke asmin avyakto bhima sainikaha. Prajvaro ayam mama bhrata tvam cha me bhagini bhava. Charamyubhabhyam loke asmin avyakto bhima sainikaha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam. Pravaro ayam mamo bhrata, tvam cha me bhagini bhava, charami vayam loke asmin, adhyakta bhima shainika. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Jai Master. Prajyaroyam mamo bhrata tamo cha me bhagini bhavo charamyo bhavyam lokeshmin avyakto bhima shainikah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prajvaroyam mamo bhrata tvam cha me bhagini bhava charamya ubhabhyam loke asmin avyakto bhima sainikaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I am also trying. Prajyaroyang mama bhrata tang cha me bhagini bhava charamyu bhavyam loke asmin avyakto bhima shainikah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vidya. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you can.
Prajvaroyam bhrata tvam cha me bhagini bhava charamyo bhavayam lokesmin avyakto bhima sainikaha. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, look at the word for word. Prajvaraha, named Prajvara. Ayam, this. Mama, my. Bhrata, brother. Tvam, you. Cha, also. Me, my. Bhagini, sister. Bhava, become. Charami, I shall go about. Ubhabhyam, Ubhabhyam, by both of you. Loke, in this world. Asmin, this. Avyaktaha, without being manifest. Bhima, dangerous. Sainikaha, with soldiers. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The king of the Yavanas continued, here is my brother Prajvara. I now accept you as my sister. I shall employ both of you as well as my dangerous soldiers to act imperceptibly within this world. Somebody would like to read the purport?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kalakanna was sent by Narad Muni to Yavan Raj so that she might become his wife. But instead of accepting her as his wife, Yavan Raj accepted her as his sister. Those who do not follow the Vedic principles are unrestricted as far as sex life is concerned. Consequently, they sometimes do not hesitate to have sex with their sisters. In this age of Kali, there are so many instances of such incest. Although Yavanraj accepted the request of Narad Muni to show respect to him, he was nonetheless thinking of illicit sex, and this was due to being the king of the Yavanraj and villagers. The word Prajavara is very significant, for it means the fever sent by Lord Vishnu. Such a fever is always set at 107 degrees, the temperature at which a man dies. Thus the king of Milchas and Yavanas requested the daughter of time Kalakanna to become his sister. There was no need to ask her to become his wife, for the Yavanas and the Milchas do not make distinctions as far as sex life is concerned. Thus, one may outwardly be a sister, mother, daughter, still have sex. Yavanraja's brother was Prajvara and Kalakanna was invalidity itself, combined with the strength by the soldiers of Yavanraj, namely non-hygienic condition, illicit sex and ultimately a high fever of temperature to bring on death. They would be able to smash the materialistic way of life. In this connection, it is significant that Narad was immune to the attack of Jara or invalidity, and similarly, Jara or the destructive force cannot attack any follower of Narad Muni or pure Vaishnava. Thus, the end of Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 27th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Attack by Chandvega on the city of King Puranjana, the character of Kalaganna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the king of Yavanas continued, here is my brother Prajvar. I now accept you as my sister. I shall employ both of you as well as my dangerous soldiers to act imperceptibly within this world. Prajvaro yam mama bhrata. So this whole chapter, as we are aware, in fact, this whole section is all about the effects of the process of how we are all entangled in material sense gratification. And when the focus is just on sense gratification, then how we are all attacked by this personality called Chandavega. Chandaveg. So it's time. And time is a veg. We have to, just like we have learnt in Nectar of Instruction, it's vague. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam. All these urges are there. So we can understand from that perspective that just because these urges exist, they cannot be controlled. They have to somehow manifest. So similarly, the attack of time cannot be resisted. It will definitely manifest. So this whole chapter, in fact, from 25 to 29, Narad Muni is trying to instill this whole concept, this theory to King Puranjan, or rather King Prachinabharishat rather, by telling him the story of King Puranjan, as we have discussed. So this chapter specifically, we are at the last verse. So this chapter is specifically the attack of time on the city of Puranjan. So here this chapter finishes off with Yavanraj, who is none other than, we can say, fear personified, is introducing us, or the information is given about his brother, about his sister, and about his soldiers. And together, what they are doing and how they are impacting and how they are smashing the desire of the materialists to just enjoy sense gratification. When somebody has that plan, how these personalities, the Prajvara, Kalakanya, and the soldiers of Yavanraj, how they are smashing the materialists. This is the whole aspect that is being described in this verse, and Prabhupada very nicely talks about it in some of the points in the purport. Very, very perhaps maybe controversial, and also something people may not be willing or not very palatable to hear, the description of how Narad Muni sent this Kalakanya to be the wife of Yavanraj, and Yavanraj, he took her as a sister. So, sometimes we see in the material world also that there is, when somebody has a liking for the opposite gender, they, because they cannot meet as opposite genders, they sometimes, for convenience sake, become brothers and sisters to the outside world. But inside the rooms, what is going on is, something else. So it is not something completely unheard of. We have been hearing these instances, but in Bhagavatam, it clearly describes that this is a propensity of a gross materialist who is only looking for sexual pleasure by hook or by crook. He doesn't care about relationships. He doesn't care about etiquettes. He has no restrictions, no following of regulations, nothing. So it's a worse than animalistic way of life. So first, Prabhupada talks about Kalakanya and Yavanraj's relationship in terms of an illicit connection, and the fact that Yavanraj doesn't even care. So although Narad Muni told him to accept her as his wife, he disregarded that. And then the second part, Prabhupada talks about the brother of Yavanraj, who is Prajvaraha. So Jwara is fever, and Prajvara, very high fever. And Prabhupada mentions that this high fever is quantified as 107 degrees. So we see that sometimes when somebody develops very high fever or temperature, what it essentially means the body is having some kind of virus attack, some kind of attack, and the internal immunity system of the body has to raise the temperature of the whole body to be able to fight that. And essentially that is a fever. So fever essentially is body temperature suddenly being raised. And Prabhupada mentions that at the time of death, this heat within the body comes to such a point that the body is not able to withstand that heat anymore, and the body passes away. So it is the temperature that the body experiences at death, and that is prajvara. So prajvara essentially is death, the fever at the time of death. So that his brother is there. And then Prabhupada writes that with Prajvara and Kalakanya and the soldiers, and here Prabhupada mentions that Prajvara mama bhrata is my brother, and Tvam chame bhagini bhava, that Kalakanya, you become my sister. Ubhayam lokesmin, both of you I will employ, means I will use the service of both of you, along with my Bhima Sainika, all my soldiers. To do what? In a avyakta, in an unmanifest way, what he will do? He will smash the materialistic way of life. So here, in the purport, in the translation, it is said to act imperceptibly. So these personalities are always acting, but the living entities will not realize, the human being will not realize that these three people are acting in their life, because it is imperceptible. We cannot perceive it. Avyakta. So how is it, why is it? In the previous purport, Prabhupada mentions that Yavan Raj, like who is Yavan Raj? The king of the Mlechas and Yavanas. And what does that mean? The word Mlecha and Yavana means what? Uncivilized people. And what does that mean? Uncivilized means that the people who do not have any ethics, any values, they do not follow any rules and regulations. And we have discussed this in the past, that we are living at a time and age where basic etiquettes of human existence have been forgotten. And even to ordinary people around, the devotees have to explain what is the dharma of human existence, how a human being should sustain his life, how he should remain in a pure state and condition. So, for example, Prabhupada mentions, I think there's 7 points to say that a civilized human life. So if you're a human being, you should be doing these things. If you are not doing these, that means you are a Yavana and a Mlecha. And anybody remembers from a previous purport? There are 7 points Prabhupada mentions. The first point is to rise early in the morning. So for a person not practicing Krishna consciousness, or not a spiritualist, or pursuing anything, any higher purpose in life, they will never rise early. They will always rise late. So for them, rising early, that is before sunrise, is a big austerity. But somebody who's practicing Krishna consciousness, they are accustomed to rising early. For them, the question is how early. It is not about early, how early. We all want to rise as early as we can, but sometimes because of various engagements and day-to-day activities, we may not be able to rise as early as we would like to. But definitely devotees rise early. Why? Because you go to take a bath, then you have to chant, then you have to do deity worship, then you have to offer, then you have to do Mangalarti, you have to study. So all of these activities, if a devotee does not wake up early, cannot fit all these things in his normal day-to-day life. And these were not new. It is not that Prabhupada introduced these new systems. They were always prevalent in a civilized human existence in human society. It was forgotten. It was completely, they had gone away from these simple, basic etiquettes. Prabhupada reintroduced them as part of his movement, this process that he has given us. So we are very, very indebted to Prabhupada for at least making us, whether it is by force or peer pressure, to follow the basics. These are basics. This is not that just because somebody follows this becomes a great devotee. But this is just to be on the human plane. These things are important. So the person who doesn't follow this is a Yavana, is a Mlecha. So he has no values, he has no etiquette, he has no understanding, he has no higher purpose in life. And majority of the population around us is in that mode. So why are they doing all of these things? Why are they suffering? So Prabhupada mentions that the soldiers of this Yavan Raj is what? He mentions that they are unhygienic conditions. So unhygienic conditions means there is no cleanliness, neither external nor internal. Externally, cleanliness is also important. So if our environment is clean, if we are clean externally, then what happens? Then first of all, the mind becomes calm and satisfied so that it is able to focus on our day-to-day duties and also devotional service. And when the environment is clean, then there is very little chance of diseases. So one of the soldiers of Yavan Raj is also unhygienic condition. It is disease and illicit connections. So like that, a person who does not follow these regulations by default is in that mode. He's constantly being attacked by the soldiers of Yavan Raj. So these people exist. Yavan Raj only is engaging these personalities to smash the materialists and indirectly, you can say, serving Krishna. Because when people are completely engrossed in sense enjoyment, unless they are smashed, they will never realize or come to think about the higher purpose of life. Why am I here? What is my goal? And they will continue to suffer. Just like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very nice verse in Madhya Leela, where it is said that Krishna bhuli she jeev onadi bahir mukh অতএব maya tare দায় সংসার dukh. That Krishna bhuli, person who has forgotten Krishna completely or sidelined Krishna from their life, that Shai Jeev, that particular living entity, that person is Anadi Bahir Mukh. He's turned his face away from Krishna. So what happens? Otoeb Maya, which is Krishna's external energy. Otoeb Maya tare daye samsaro dukh. So Maya is constantly making them suffer. How is it making them suffer? By the agency of Yavan Raj, by the agency of Kalakanya, by the agency of Prajwara, by the agency of Yavan Raj's soldiers. So this is how it all gives us a very clear understanding of why this is happening, what conditions we are going through. And it is said that this Prajwara is the fever at the end of life. So when somebody becomes old, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, we know. So Jara and Vyadhi continues. But Jara is the invalidity of old age. So we see even now around us, where the elderly people, when they have no focus, there's no goal in their life, they have worked maybe or done business or whatever it is in their working period, and now they have retired, they have nothing to do. They have no activity. They have no focused, productive activity. They don't have a good relationship with their own family members. So what is happening? They are in some rest house or living alone somewhere, and they keep a dog or a cat as a pet just to pass their time, and they're constantly watching TV and now mobile phone all the time. And they're waiting for what? They're waiting for Prajwara to come into their life. They are anyway affected by Kalakanya. They are anyway affected by the soldiers of Yavanraj. Now they are only waiting for Prajwara. This is a sorry situation of the society around us that we live in. So here, Yavanraj is just doing what is required to be done. But the important message here is very important, that everybody is being attacked. It is not that Yavanraj is only attacking a certain section of materialists. Everybody in this material world will be attacked by Yavanraj, by his soldiers, by Kalakanya, by Prajwara. Now the materialists, because they are only focused on sense gratification, what will happen? So say, for example, the person who is engaged in sense gratification by default is always fearful. Why? That their sense gratification that they worked so hard for will be gone in some time. Somebody may snatch it, somebody might take it away. So they are very fearful. And then as they are engaging in material activities, and sometimes when they are not able to get the pleasure or they're not able to get the result of that gratification, what happens? They try even harder. They want to enjoy more. They want to be more happy. And the more they want to enjoy, the more they are completely engrossed, the more effort and activity and mental and physically they are engaged in that. And more frustrated they become along the way. So the more they try, the more they get frustrated, but they don't know what to do. And like that, their whole life becomes, there is a verse in Bhagavatam that says, Ayur harati vaipumsam, udyan astam chayan asau. That Ayur harati, that all these people who are just focused in sense gratification in the materialistic way of life, Ayur harati, their ayu, their age, their duration of life becomes less and less and less. Udyam astam chayan asau. As the sun rises and sets, their age, their duration of life is being cut. Now, there is an exception. Of course, time goes for everybody, whether it's a materialist or a devotee. Time will pass. The impact of all this Yavanraj, Kalakanya will be there, definitely. Nobody can avoid. But there is a difference. This verse in Bhagavatam says, it's from second canto, I think. It says, Tasyarte yat shano nita uttama shloka vartaya. That except for people who are constantly discussing the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uttama shloka vartaya, who are always discussing. So people who are connected to the Supreme Lord by the means of discussing the pastimes, for them, Ayu doesn't, it is not that they don't grow old, but they are not being consumed by time as it comes along. And so in the end of this purport, Prabhupada writes that yes, all these agencies, they act on all the living entities, especially the materialists. But Yavanraj and his accomplice, they cannot touch Narad Muni. They cannot affect Narad Muni, and they cannot affect any of the followers of Narad Muni. So when this, for example, Jara or Kalakanya, when this Jara comes to a person who's engaged in the process of Krishna consciousness, and when the Jara comes to somebody who is not engaged in the process, a normal materialist, can you visualize what is the difference between the two? So Jara is acting on both. Both are growing old. Gray hair, body is getting frail, mental facilities are getting shortened, and but the person is unable to do things that he could do in his young life. Now, to a gross materialist who experiences Jara, what is his reaction? How does he feel? He feels even more frustrated. Yes or no? And when he's frustrated, he tries to enjoy more, but his body, mind, and his facilities, they are just reducing and diminishing. So he gets more frustrated, he gets more unhappy, he gets more disappointed, and he almost before death, as it said, he's almost dead before even the death actually comes. So before Prajvara strikes, he's actually, there's a saying, one leg in the grave already. So they become very fearful. The gross materialists who experience Jara and Vyadhi, they become extremely fearful. And that is Yavanraj. Whereas when Jara and Vyadhi, they come to a practicing devotee, how does the devotee see it? So just like we hear the story of Maharaj Dasharath, when Maharaj Dasharath, he was in the prime of his kingdom, he was ruling the kingdom. And one day he was standing in front of the mirror and he saw one strand of white hair. One strand. If we see one strand of white hair, what we'll do? We'll just take some color and make it black. What did Dasharath do? He saw that white strand and then he thought to himself, this is the signal that I have to now start delegating the kingdom and the kingly activities to my Uttaradhikari, the next best person, who was obviously none other than his elder son Ram. So give him the kingdom and slowly start retiring from day-to-day activities so that I can devote my time to achieve the goal of this human existence. So when Jara and Vyadhi come to a practicing devotee, he actually takes it in a completely different way, that now Krishna is telling me that I have to dedicate my life more and more, as much as I can, maybe not 100% at that point either, but slowly reduce all the other activities as practical and devote that time in devotional service. So he actually becomes not fearful, but he becomes fearless. Anyway, I'll have to die, or we all have to die. And for a person who has the right understanding and is actually practicing devotional service, death then becomes not a cause of worry, not a cause of fear, but a cause of fearlessness to move on to a more eternal life, or at least a better existence after death. So death for a practicing devotee is a threshold, is a transition for a better existence, whether it is going back or whether it is coming back and completing unfinished activities, but on a definitely higher platform than what that devotee is at this point. So a devotee has nothing to lose. Nehabhikrama nasho asti pratyavayana vidyate swalpasya alpasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So he doesn't experience any fear because there is no loss or diminution, he understands, in this path. So that is a big difference. So a follower of Narad Muni becomes fearless when Jara and Vyadhi come to him. So Prabhupada he was named Abhay Charanara Vinda. It becomes fearful when he submits to the lotus feet of his master. So people who are the followers of Narad Muni, the Goswamis, the whole Guru Parampara, and more importantly, Srila Prabhupada, by their own example, they have taught us how they have completely stepped over Jara and Vyadhi and lived a life of complete fearlessness, abhayam. Prabhupada himself, although he was bodily having so many inconveniences right from the time he went to America, which is long before he actually left this planet, he was having bodily inconveniences. He was affected by Jara, he was affected by Vyadhi, but on a physical level, that is. But from a transcendental plane, he was in fact doing more. When he was affected by these, he was actually doing more service than what he did previously. And he had so many followers that he could achieve much more when he had those inconveniences than when he was bodily fitter in his previous life. Although we know from a transcendental perspective that was a preparation to do all that Krishna wanted him to do. But it just gives us a glimpse of how true this statement is from the life of Srila Prabhupada himself. So the fact that these elements of Prajvara, Kalakanya, Yavanraj will not touch any of the followers of Narad Muni has been actually demonstrated and proved by the life of our own Srila Prabhupada. And any person who follows Srila Prabhupada sincerely can also experience the same fearlessness. And that is the gift Prabhupada has given us. There is another nice verse in Bhagavatam that says the process of becoming fearless, the process of actually living this human form of life, where it says, Yatre yadyante katha amrishtas Trishnaya prasamo yataha nirvairam yatra bhuteshu nirdvando yatra kasyana. So it is said that wherever pure topics of the Supreme Lord are discussed, the audience forgets three things. They forget the material hankerings for the time being. Number one, all material hankerings, wants, they are completely mitigated. And we feel satisfaction and calmness when pure topics are discussed. That is one. Number two, they are nirvairam. They are not envious of each other. We are stuck in this material because of envy. And we are continuing in that mood of enviousness even in our dealings, in our day-to-day existence. So to be non-envious is very difficult. But when pure topics are discussed, automatically we feel calm and composed, feel connected to the Supreme, and we don't feel any envy towards any other living entity. So that is second. And the third one is the living entities who are hearing the topics, they do not suffer from any fear or anxiety. So they become fearless. So this is the gift of Narad Muni. This is a gift of Srila Prabhupada, that just by discussing the topics of the Supreme Lord, we can connect ourselves to the source of all fearlessness, the Supreme Lord. And three things happen as a byproduct of hearing this product, hearing the pure topics. So material hankerings go away, number one. Number two, we don't have any envy. And third is there is no anxiety or fear left in any of the living entity. And that is the only antidote to the onslaught of Yavanraj, onslaught of Kalakanya, onslaught of Prajvara, and onslaught of the soldiers of Yavanraj. And Narad Muni constantly drives this point to Maharaj Prachina Parishad and will continue to do so in the next couple of chapters. So we have to remember, if we are not sincerely practicing Krishna consciousness as given by Prabhupada in Parampara of Narad Muni, then we will be attacked by Yavanraj and his associates. But if we are following the instructions of Narad Muni, like he is protected from all these things, completely transcendental, we will also develop the qualities of staying away from this or not being affected by these by their mercy. Choice is ours. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Okay, there's any questions or comments on today's verse?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you so much for enlightening this. The last verse of this chapter. We have already warmed up by your discussion. So the temperature is gone up a bit from 5 degrees. Yeah, you nicely explained and made it easy for us to understand the effect of Jara, Kalakanda and Jara. So is how it affects throughout our life, but we don't want to understand or we don't understand. It's a matter of discussion today that everybody is suffering from all these three things, but we unknowingly try to cover it up but it is ongoing process. So, and at the end of our life, when we are helpless, then we just cry out how these are affecting our life. But it is an ongoing process, and the only thing is for a materialistic person and devotee, as you explained, is very, very simple, but I need to understand it in a better perspective so that things can be properly utilized and we become fearless. As you said, only keeping away us from the material sense enjoyment, if we utilize that time after retirement towards the service to the Lord by listening the by the glories of the Lord, hearing about Krishna Katha, that will help us to keep us healthy even at that point of death. That is material hankering, and then your non-enviousness, and the last is fearfulness of anxiety. All these things can be diverted only by hearing Krishna Katha, and that is the main subject matter of this chapter and the last text. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavata Pranam. As usual, thank you very much for the very nice class, and it is always a lesson for us when we give the class. Everything is so nicely explained. And as you have very nicely pointed out, that a person in Krishna consciousness can really become from the fearlessness. He is fearless, or he is free from fearfulness. This is because he understands the message of the God as given, but people in material world is often has a different perspective. They look everything in a different way. When as you have told, with the passage of time, for any human being, the God gives us the signal that the time has come. First, the hair, as you have given the example of Suhrit Maharaj, the hair goes from black to white. And then, yes, as the vision is less, it's from lesser to lesser. Hearing gets lesser to lesser. And the wrinkles in the body comes. All these are signals. But a materialistic person looks in a different way. He wants to keep his tempo of material enjoyment. And that's why he becomes afraid that this enjoyment, which he is thinking, unlimited time he will enjoy, just as Yudhishthira Maharaj was telling to Jamraj that every day people are dying, but the last person thinks that he will be alive all along, and he thinks that way. And Prabhupada has very nicely given us the lesson that if we just turn, as you've told, from Bohirmukh, from away from Krishna, if we turn towards Krishna, the whole thing changes, the whole perspective changes. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, if I remember, it is 177. Yasham Vaishtiyo Manaya Krishna Parama Purushe Bhakti Rutpaddate Pumsho Shoko Moho Bhayappo. So whenever we turn our face to the Krishna, all these things goes away. I mean, we get the three things. The first, past, Shoko Moho. Shok is for the past things. What we have done in the past, or what has happened in the past, we remain engrossed with that and become misery and feels misery. And for the present, Moho, we have a different, we do not look the things the way we have to look at. And we remain in in an illusion that we have to do this, that, and want to enjoy instead of doing the correct things. And boy, this is for the future, that what will happen to me in future. All these things can be resolved very nicely when we turn our face toward Lord. And in this way, the devotees have a final goal for them, and they knows that everything is given by Krishna and he is controlling us. If we just align our thinkings with his thinking, I mean his plan, we just align our things with his plan, our life will be successful. But we forget that, and the cause of fear is because of that. We do not align we make a separate plan without knowing that our plan is definitely to fail. Our plan will fail. It is better we align our plan with the Krishna's plan, and in this way we can be happy and free from fear. And when we follow Krishna's instruction, we become free from that. And that is what Prabhupada is given through ISKCON, and it is a great society for us, and we have taken advantage of it, and it is our duty to see that others can take help from this one. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nicely summarized, Prabhu. Along with Tushya Chaitanya Prabhu. Okay.
Prabhuji, there is another question on the...
Yeah, I just saw that. Jade Mataji is asking, if we are not sincerely practicing, should we bother trying at all? What do you reckon? Well, even when we are practicing Krishna consciousness and the process of devotional service, are we really sincere? We are doing it because of various reasons. Maybe peer pressure, maybe some material gain. There are many motivation factors or motivational factors. So it's not that we are very sincerely trying from the heart initially, but somehow if we just keep going in the association of devotees who are sincere, when we are trying to follow, trying to practice, then slowly it becomes a part of our whole devotional mood, and it manifests. So especially for people who are like, we are all preachers, whether you are actually sitting on Vyasasana or not, every devotee who is a follower of Prabhupada is a preacher, because people are looking up to them. So we may not instantly get success at what we are doing. We may not be very sincere at what we are doing. We may not be doing it from the heart. But key thing is, are we associating with devotees who are sincere? If we are, then one day or the other, success is guaranteed. And that is not our guarantee. This is Krishna's guarantee, Prabhupada's guarantee. So nothing to lose heart. When we come across this information, we take it as an impetus and inspiration to become more sincere and more sincere and more sincere. And Prabhupada and our Guru Maharaj will do the rest and ensure we are in the right hands. Okay, good. I was just going to ask, does that answer your question? Okay, any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Dandot
Krishna.
Pranam Prabhu. Thank you very much for a lovely class, wonderful class this cold morning. Prabhu, I really like that reference you made to Srimad Bhagavatam verse, which says that, that we get free of envy, fear, and hankering. Which verse is that? Which section of Bhagavatam is that from?
This
Very
one
beautiful
is,
one.
Just a minute. Just close this here. Don't remember. It is from Canto 4 actually. The Prachetas. They are the ones who have given that.
Later it will come.
Sutra. Yeah, I
Later
think it's chapter 30. Just a minute.
Okay. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it's 4:30:35.
Thank you, Prabhu.
We'll be coming to that verse.
We'll coming to that soon, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, any other comments? It's nice to Chaitanya Prabhu said, just by hearing Krishna Katha, the temperature has gone up. We can save on some electric bills for sure.
Yeah. So it is better to start every morning so that your bill will be less. It warms up. It's all about channelizing our interest, that's all.
Correct. Okay. Fine. If there's no other comment or questions, we can conclude today.
Yes, Prabhuji, it appears there is no other question.
Okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha.
Panchakalparubhyasya kripasindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Namo Namo Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.